something I feel like really bad about was the Danny Grillo story. You know, Danny was part of the DeMeo crew. He was an intricate part of the DeMeo crew. A very, very good friend of mine. Danny was basically a bank robber and a kidnapper before he got with us. When he got with the DeMeo crew, when I met Danny, he had just gotten out on a bank. He got out of Attica after he did 14 years. And we met, and I knew Henry, and you know, I mean, I knew the whole crew. And all of a sudden, Danny was like the new guy on the block, and for some reason, him and Henry were real close. So I got close with Danny, basically through Henry, and we did some things together, and we trusted each other, and we moved a lot of cocaine in New York City together, me and Danny. And there came a time, Danny had a really serious gambling problem. And one night he went down to Mulberry Street to a crap game that was run by Matty the horse. Danny dropped $250,000, which Danny in no way had the money to cover the debt. He got the comp because he was with the DeMeo crew. He was with the Gambinos. But still, individually, you're responsible for your debt. So he came to me, and I went to my uncle, and to make a long story short, my uncle and Roy covered the debt. Now you're talking $250,000. And the thing that they told Danny was, you know, we covered the debt, but there is no more gambling. You know, basically you're not allowed to do this no more. At that point, they kind of like put me on Danny. You know, they said, look, you got to watch him now. Make sure he doesn't fuck up no more and, you know, do any of this, you know, gambling shit no more. He's done with gambling. All right. It wasn't a long time afterward, maybe 3 weeks, if not less than that, that Danny came to me. He came to my house and told me he had dropped $110,000 in the same game, in Matty's game. You know, and I said, Danny, how could you do something like that? How could you fuck up like that? You realize what a fuck up this is? And he was just, I mean, Danny was a tough guy, man. Danny was a fucking bank robber. Danny was a kidnapper. Danny was a killer. He was reduced to a blithering idiot. I mean, he was at my house crying. you know. And I said, look, man, well, you know, I don't know what they're going to do, but I don't know how we're going to straighten this out. And I said, look, all you can do right now is go home, all right? Let me talk to my uncle, and let me see what I could do. At that time, Danny was under some serious pressure by the law because he had killed Ruby Stein, which was one of the biggest loan sharks in New York City and very close with the Gambinos. When he had done that, it caused a, what's the word for it? It caused the Gambinos and the Westies to actually form an alliance because it gave the Gambinos a reason to go to the Westies, because although Danny Grillo had done the shooting on Ruby Stein, Jimmy Coonan, the head of the Westies, Mickey Featherstone, the underboss, Billy Beatty, Kevin Shannon, Kevin Shelley, I mean, all the Westies, Mad Dog Sullivan, Kaminsky, had to be brought in the fold. All right.
Stop for a second. Stop for a second. I know that you're trying to get this whole thing out, but the long pauses and things like that, you gotta.
I can edit that. Don't worry about it.
I'm just trying to say, you know, try to.
Well, I got to think because.
Don't worry, I'll edit.
You sure? Good.
This is good stuff.
All right, go ahead. So
Right.
after the
Where was I?
you were after telling that they all had to unify with the Westies.
Right. So we were trying to get this unification thing done with the Westies, and at this point, the Danny Grillo thing was becoming a thorn in the side to everything we were working toward. So when Danny left that morning, you know, I had to go down and talk to my uncle about it. And my uncle was asking me, he says, well, you know, how could he do this again? I said, you know, I'm not a gambler, but I was a drug addict. And everything I ever heard was the gambling bug is as bad as a drug bug. So I can understand it on that level. But I still couldn't really, you know, grasp it as far as how could he do this? You know, I mean, he just lost $250,000. They paid his debt. Now he's going to lose another $110,000, knowing that he could die over it. And he's asking me to save him. And at that point, there was maybe something I could do. You know, I could maybe have like tried to, I don't know. I really don't know. But anyway, I had to tell my uncle, look, I'm washing my hands of it. You know, I mean, Danny's fucked up, and this is going to go on. And because of the heat that was coming on him from the feds and NYPD, organized crime, about the Ruby Stein hit, I said, if they grab Danny right now, he's gonna rat. That's all I had to say. By the next morning, I was getting phone calls from his wife. Danny didn't come home last night, and you know, I just knew Danny was gone at that point. You know, and then I found out that they had parked his car on the Brooklyn Bridge and left the passenger side open, so like to make it look like he slid across the seat and just jumped off the bridge. But in reality, I walked up to the Gemini the next day, that next afternoon, and Chris was walking out of the Gemini. And I hadn't known at that point about the car on the bridge and stuff like that. And I walked by Chris because I had already, that morning, Angie was calling me. So I went there to find something out. And when I walked by Chris, I said, "You seen Danny?" He said, "No, do you see him no more?" And he just kept on walking. So that's when I knew, you know, Danny got whacked.
Wasn't there something about like he's in the garbage or something like that?
Mm-mm.
No?
Mm.
But they chopped him up in the Gemini?
Yeah. Mm.
How'd you feel when that happened?
I felt bad. I felt really bad, but you know what? It was, I mean, it's something I still feel miserable about today. But it was our life. I mean, that's the way shit went. I mean, Danny really fucked up. You know, really fucked up. I think the thing that bothers me more than anything is Chris saying that to me. He said, "Oh, don't worry, nobody's going to see Danny no more." That's exactly what he said. Because he really didn't like Danny, just like he didn't like Henry, because Henry and Danny were close to me. They were my friends, you know. And as much as he played that he was my friend, I mean, we played the game, but we both knew we really didn't like each other. You know. And that had a lot to do with me getting Chris's ass killed, which I did. Down the road, it took a year, but he screwed up, you know. And that I have no regrets about. Another strange little sidebar to that story was that Danny Grillo and Roy DeMeo both took out these life insurance policies with a double indemnity clause, where something about it was a $500,000 policy, but if you died like a violent death or a car accident or murder or something like that, it was double indemnity, so you got $1 million. So when Danny died, the insurance company wouldn't pay Margie the $1 million because they said, well, we never found the body, you know. And we don't know if it was a suicide, we don't know if it was a murder, we don't know, you know, what happened, so we're not gonna pay. And who jumped in on that was Frank Pergola. And in a strange, you know, tweak of fate, Frank actually, you know, and I don't know the details to this, convinced the insurance company or set proof forth to the insurance company where Danny Grillo was a homicide. And Margie wound up with the $1 million.